Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we are taking a journey to a place that feels less like a specific country and more like a different planet entirely. We are heading to the rarefied air of the Ethiopian Highlands. This is a world of extremes, where the atmosphere is thin, the light possesses a crystalline clarity, and the biological rules we take for granted seem to warp and bend. It is here, on the so-called roof of Africa, that a scene is unfolding that defies the conventional laws of nature. Picture a wolf. This is a creature of tooth, claw, and predatory instinct. It is an animal designed by millions of years of evolution to chase, to bite, and to kill. Now, picture that wolf approaching a flower. It does not trample the bloom, it does not mark it with scent. Instead, with a surprising, almost tender delicacy, this carnivore leans in, extends a pink tongue, and begins to lick. When it pulls away, its narrow muzzle is dusted with golden pollen. This is Canis simensis, the Ethiopian wolf. And it has just unwittingly enlisted in an ancient service, usually reserved for bees, birds, and bats. It has become a pollinator. For decades, the story of pollination was written in the language of co-evolution between flowering plants and the small, flying creatures that service them. Large carnivores were the antagonists in this story, or at best, indifferent bystanders. But the recent documentation of Ethiopian wolves feeding on the nectar of the red-hot poker plant has rewritten a chapter of ecological science. It challenges our understanding of therophily, which is the scientific term for pollination by mammals, and it highlights the extraordinary adaptability of life in the Afroalpine ecosystem. To truly understand this phenomenon, we have to peel back the layers of this ecosystem. We need to explore the biology of a wolf with a sweet tooth and unravel the delicate web of life that connects a top-tier predator to a bright orange flower. Let's start by setting the stage. To understand the wolf, one must first understand the ground it walks on. The Bale Mountains of Ethiopia are essentially a high-altitude island in a sea of dry lowlands. Rising to over 4,000 meters or 13,000 feet, this Afroalpine ecosystem is a world apart, isolated for millions of years from similar habitats in East Africa. The climate here is often described by the phrase, summer every day and winter every night. The equatorial sun burns with intense heat during the day, triggering an explosion of plant life. But as soon as that sun dips below the horizon, the thin air loses its heat rapidly. Temperatures plummet, often freezing the dew that settles on the giant lobelias and tussock grasses. This extreme oscillation between burning heat and freezing cold has forced life to adapt in strange, almost alien ways. Plants here are often gigantic. You have the giant lobelia, which shoots a phallic flower spike meters into the air, looking like something out of a science fiction movie. You have cushions of helichrysum flowers that hug the ground tightly to escape the biting wind. The fauna is equally specialized. You have the mountain nyala, a magnificent spiral-horned antelope that ghosts through the heather forests. You have the bale monkey navigating the bamboo belts below. And scurrying beneath the ground is the true architect of this ecosystem, the giant mole rat. I mention the mole rat because it is the primary reason the Ethiopian wolf exists in these heights. Unlike its cousins, the gray wolves of Eurasia and North America, the Ethiopian wolf is not a pack hunter of large game. It does not chase down elk or bison. Instead, it is a solitary precision hunter of rodents. Evolution has stretched its snout into a long, narrow forceps, perfect for plunging into mole rat burrows. It is a specialist, a creature honed by the specific demands of the Afroalpine meadow. But even a specialist needs variety. And in the wet season, when the clouds wrap the Seneti Plateau in mist, a new resource emerges from the green landscape. This is where the red-hot poker enters the story. Scientifically known as Coniferea foliosa, this plant is a member of the Asphodelaceae family, a robust perennial herb endemic to these highlands. To the casual observer, it is called a red-hot poker for its striking inflorescence. It creates a dense spike of tubular flowers that transition from crimson buds at the top to bright yellow, open flowers at the base. In gardens around the world, related species are polite ornaments. But in the Bale Mountains, Coniferea foliosa is a titan. It forms massive clumps, sending up flower stalks that can reach human height. Crucially, these flowers are nectar factories. Unlike many plants that produce microscopic droplets of sugar water, Coniferea produces copious amounts of nectar. It is a high-octane energy drink designed to attract pollinators that have high metabolic needs. Traditionally, the intended patrons of this floral bar are sunbirds. The Takazi sunbird and the malachite sunbird are the standard pollinators here. Their long, curved bills are perfectly adapted to probe the tubular flowers. As they drink, their foreheads brush against the anthers, picking up pollen to transport to the next flower. It is a classic example of ornithophily, or bird pollination. But Coniferea foliosa has an open-door policy. Its nectar is accessible enough that it attracts a host of other visitors, including honeybees and other insects. And, as we now know, it attracts the wolf. The blooming season of the red-hot poker coincides with the rainy season in the highlands, roughly from May to October. This is a time of plenty, but also a time of high energy expenditure for animals regulating their body temperature in the cold, wet conditions. The fields of the Bale Mountains turn into a sea of orange and yellow torches, signaling a feast. The scientific community is often slow to accept anecdotes. We like data, we like proof. But local shepherds in the Bale Mountains have known for generations that the Jadala farda, the local Oromo name meaning horse's jackal, had a peculiar habit. Children in the region also compete for the nectar, plucking the flowers to suck out the sweet liquid, a practice they seemingly share with the wolves. However, it wasn't until late 2024 that a team of researchers from the Ethiopian Wolf Conservation Program and Oxford University, led by Dr. Sandra Lai, formally documented this behavior in the journal Ecology. They observed wolves visiting up to 30 flower stalks in a single foraging trip. The behavior they documented is methodical. It isn't a random act of destruction. A wolf approaches a clump of Coniferae, usually selecting the lower yellow flowers. These are the mature ones, brimming with nectar. The wolf doesn't destroy the flower, it licks. The wolf's tongue laps at the nectar, and in the process, its long, narrow snout becomes coated in the bright orange pollen of the plant. This observation sent ripples through the fields of zoology and botany. Large carnivores are simply not supposed to do this. This brings us to a fundamental question. Why? Why would a carnivore, whose digestive system is built for protein and fat, seek out plant sugar? One theory is the dessert hypothesis. Nectar provides a quick, easily accessible burst of carbohydrates. For a wolf that spends hours stalking mole rats, which is a high-intensity activity with a notoriously low success rate, a flower patch represents a free lunch. The nectar is calorie-dense and requires zero hunting effort. Another theory, often applied to animals in dry environments, is hydration. Perhaps they are just thirsty. However, the Coniferae blooms during the wet season in Bale. Water is everywhere. Puddles, streams, and rain are abundant. The wolves are not drinking for water, they are drinking for sugar. This behavior is underpinned by a fascinating quirk of genetics. In the order Carnivora, the sense of taste varies wildly. The Felidae family, which includes all cats from your house cat to the mighty lion, has lost the ability to taste sweet things. A mutation in the TAS1R2 gene rendered their sweet taste receptors non-functional millions of years ago. If a lion licks a lollipop, it tastes nothing but cardboard, or perhaps the stick. It gets no pleasure from the sugar. Canids, however, which includes dogs, wolves, and coyotes, have retained a functional TAS1R2 gene. They can taste sweet. Anyone who has seen a domestic dog relish a piece of fruit or steal a cookie knows this. The Ethiopian wolf has retained this ancestral trait, and in the resource-rich environment of the Bale Mountains, it has put it to use. It is a perfect example of evolutionary opportunism. The hardware was there, and the environment provided the software in the form of nectar. This interaction places the Ethiopian wolf in a very exclusive club. Pollination by mammals, or therophily, is a well-documented, but relatively rare phenomenon compared to insect or bird pollination. Usually, the club of mammal pollinators is restricted to 3 specific groups. First, you have bats, which are major pollinators of cactus and agave in the Americas, and durian in Southeast Media. Second, you have marsupials, like the honey possums and sugar gliders in Australia, which are key pollinators of banksia and eucalyptus. Third, you have primates. Lemurs in Madagascar and some monkeys in South America are known to pollinate travelers, palms, and other species. There is also a fourth minor group of rodents, certain mice and rats in South Africa, that pollinate ground-dwelling proteas. But carnivores? Carnivores are the rarest of the rare in this context. Before the Ethiopian wolf, there were only fleeting records of carnivores acting as potential pollinators. There was the kinkajou in Central America, which is a relative of the raccoon. There was the masked palm civet in Asia, and there were the Cape Genet and Cape Gray mongoose in South Africa. But the Ethiopian wolf is the first large carnivore to be added to this list. Its inclusion changes our perception of what are called pollination syndromes. A pollination syndrome is a set of flower traits that suggests who the pollinator is. If a flower is red and tubular, the textbook says it is pollinated by birds. If a flower is pale and smells musky, the textbook says it is pollinated by bats. Nymphophobia foliosa screams bird pollination. It has all the traits. Yet it is being serviced by a wolf. This suggests that pollination is often messier and more opportunistic than the textbook suggests. Nature does not always color inside the lines. If a resource like nectar is available, and an animal has the means to access it, meaning they have sweet taste receptors and a long snout, an interaction will occur. Now, in the world of pollination science, there is a crucial distinction we must make. Is the wolf a friend, or is it a thief? There is a difference between a true pollinator and a nectar thief. A pollinator moves pollen from the anthers, the male part of one flower, to the stigma, the female part of another, facilitating reproduction. A nectar thief takes the reward without doing the work. They might bite through the base of the flower to bypass the pollen, or they might be so smooth that no pollen sticks to them. So, is the Ethiopian wolf a true pollinator? The evidence strongly suggests yes. The researchers observed significant pollen loads on the wolves' muzzles. Because the wolves move from flower stalk to flower stalk and often travel significant distances between plant clumps, much further than a bee might travel, they are likely acting as long-distance gene vectors for the plants. The social structure of the wolves amplifies this effect. Ethiopian wolves are social animals that live in packs but usually hunt alone. However, the nectar feeding appears to be a social affair. Researchers have observed adults leading pups to the flower fields. This implies social learning. It suggests that the behavior is cultural, passed down from generation to generation. Imagine a pack of wolves moving through a valley, snacking on flowers. They could cross-pollinate Coniphacea populations that are miles apart, promoting genetic diversity in the plants in a way that a territorial sunbird, which stays in a smaller area, might not. However, this beautiful interaction is playing out on the edge of a precipice. The Ethiopian wolf is Africa's most endangered carnivore. Fewer than 500 individuals remain, scattered across a handful of mountain ranges. The Bale Mountains population is the stronghold, housing more than half of the global population, but it is under siege. One major threat is habitat loss. The fertile highlands are heavily populated by humans. Agriculture is pushing higher up the mountain slopes, turning the wolf's Afroalpine grassland into barley fields. The Coniphacea plants are often cleared to make way for crops or are trampled by livestock. But the greatest immediate threat to the wolf is disease spilled over from domestic dogs. Rabies and canine distemper virus periodically sweep through the wolf packs, decimating their numbers. A single outbreak can reduce the population by 70%. The connection between the wolf and the flower highlights the interconnectedness of this ecosystem. If the wolves disappear, the Coniphacea will likely survive, as it still has the sunbirds. But if the Coniphacea fields are plowed under, the wolves lose a critical seasonal energy source. More importantly, the loss of the wolf would be the loss of a unique ecological function. We are only just beginning to understand the complexity of the Afroalpine web. The wolf controls the rodent population, which eats the vegetation. The wolf pollinates the flowers, which feed the insects and birds. The wolf attracts tourists, who bring money to the local economy, incentivizing conservation. The image of an Ethiopian wolf, the copper-furred guardian of the plateau, delicately sipping nectar from a fiery torch lily, is a powerful symbol. It reminds us that nature is adaptable. It reminds us that even specialists like the rodent-hunting wolf are capable of behavioral plasticity. It also reminds us of what we stand to lose. This interaction, evolved over millennia in the isolation of the Ethiopian Highlands, was unknown to science until just a year or two ago. How many other secrets are hidden in the remote corners of our planet? How many other impossible interactions are vanishing before we even name them? Conservationists like those at the Ethiopian Wolf Conservation Program are working tirelessly to protect this species. They vaccinate domestic dogs in surrounding villages to create a buffer against disease. They monitor wolf packs and work with local communities to protect the habitat. The discovery of the pollinating wolf adds a new arrow to the quiver of conservation arguments. We are not just saving a predator, we are saving a gardener, a pollinator, a key player in the floral cycle of the mountains. In the end, the Ethiopian wolf and the red-hot poker tell a story of survival. In the harsh, beautiful, high-altitude world of the Bale Mountains, you take what you can get. If you are a flower, you make enough nectar for everyone. And if you are a wolf, you learn that sometimes survival is sweet. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online.